Please welcome Sassy Science.
Thanks for bringing me here. Honestly, this is a great opportunity to reclaim a space where a drag queen usually is not as welcome. So thank you for bringing me. So yes, I am Sassy Science. I'll present myself a little bit just in case you don't know me, which is very normal. And I have come to talk to you a little bit about the pros and cons of a more personal and therefore political SciComm. So what do I want to talk to you about? Well, I want to present myself a little bit. I want to talk about SciComm and politics because science communication is always political. We'll deal on that a little bit later. SciComm in first person, what, why, for whom? Pros and cons of doing this kind of authentic way, because I'm not just going to talk about the pros. There are very much cons to this. And then just using my own project as a personal example of how we could do this. So, who am I? Hi, hello. This is me. On the right, back when I had hair that was not glued to my scalp. So, hi, I'm Mario. I'm a researcher at the Instituto de Nanociencia y Materiales de Aragón / Universidad de Lille. It's hard, it's a complicated situation. What am I as well? Well, I'm also a drag queen. Go figure. I didn't just wake up today with this and was like, let's go give a talk. And at some point, I decided to mix both of these things to create this as a science project, which uses drag as a way to, as a means for SciComm. And I wanted to give you a little taste, just a smidge of what would be something that we could do with this. So I am going to talk about myself, because first and foremost, drag queens are narcissists. Sorry. Do you see the thing that's behind me? I know it's hard to pull focus from my face there, but just... So, okay, first of all, hands up if you don't have a background in physics or chemistry, just in case, just to... Okay, cool, so I don't have to explain to you the structure of graphene. Adapt to your public. So yeah, I was doing work with graphene, hence my wings that are there, for the most part of my first 2 years of PhD. Has anyone here worked with graphene? Yeah, there was something there that looked like graphene. So yeah, when it came out in 2004, it was like all the rage, right? It was like, wow, the material of the future. But like many things that came out in 2004, maybe they don't not stand the test of time as much as they could have. Let's just say, like, you know, tectonic, for example. It was like, wow, there's such properties, like mechanical properties, thermal properties, yeah. Technically, yes, but like, graphene is kind of like a drag queen's makeup. You see it from far, you're like, wow, that looks great. And then you get closer and not necessarily as good. So during my PhD, I had to create bilayer graphene. You know, Jeremiah comes is like, make bilayer graphene. And you're like, I just got here. I don't know how to do this. So I did what any reputable scientist does when they have a task at hand. I Googled. And I found a paper from the 70s that said, hey, if you put a piece of graphite into bromine, it becomes, like, the bromine intercalates every 2 layers of graphite. And I was like, this is it. That's what I need, because then you can just exfoliate and get bilayer graphene. Just so you know, my background is in physics. Chemistry is not necessarily something I know. So after Googling how to do this and talking to my advisor saying, okay, do this. I Googled what bromine did to your body. It is lethal at a proportion of 7 atoms per liter of air. 7 parts per million, sorry. Which is basically my worst nightmare, which is that my tombstone says she died because she was clumsy. But I had already said yes, my advisor had said yes, so I was kind of obliged to, right? So imagine me there in the hood, the lab hood. I was first in line doing the experiment. One of the technicians of the lab was behind me just in case I dropped something. It was kind of like a weird version of Ghost. But instead of someone singing, "Oh, my love," it was just extraction would be like, and I dropped a hefty amount of bromine. I literally saw my life flash before my eyes. Not great, because honestly, the teenage years could have used a little improvement. And nothing else happened, honestly. So, literally, nothing else happened. The hood extracted, which is its job. I learned that this didn't even work, but I found another way of not doing graphene. I know this is cliche of, yeah, there's 100 ways of, like, you know, that falsely attributed quote of Edison, if I found 100 ways of not doing a light bulb. It is still kind of relevant to this day. Like, we as scientists find 1,000 ways to fail, and maybe sometimes things go well, or maybe sometimes you find something that you didn't expect, but it's also nice to know. Because if not, we wouldn't be scientists, we would be, how do we call people who make prophecies? Sorry, I forgot the word. Prophet. Thank you, would be prophets. So, that'd be a little snitch of what I do nowadays. Thank you. Wow, tough crowd. So, how did I get here? 3 things. First, I had a compulsory communication education during my PhD, and a grand challenge, which is a fancy way of then saying, hey, we taught you something, now you have to do something. Then I had a wonderful LGBT plus association where I was doing my PhD, which gave me a safe space to do drag. And then, fun fact, I am also disabled, and I had a 5-month medical leave where I couldn't walk, which gives you plenty of time to think things. I was very bored, honestly. So I was like, hey, let's join towards, right? Let's be the Hannah Montana of physics, as someone might have dubbed me. That someone might be me, I might be trying to pass it on to my colleagues. So, yeah, why drag? Well, first of all, hold on. Second of all, it has come from being a segregated art form. Like, here we can see Petrola Agent Prices Burning as like an example of how this was an art of the margins. Like, this was done by people who did not have a lot of means, mostly Black and Latino people in the States. Although Europe has a nice history in each country of local drag that is also beautiful. Then came to being something related to cult films, like To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar. And then in 2009, and probably until the apocalypse comes, we have RuPaul's Drag Race, who has set this into the mainstream, right? To the point where there's a picture I like here of Lactatia, which is Kit drag queen, at RuPaul's DragCon in New York City. So in general, yeah, it is something that has gotten more and more mainstream, and that has a kind of a profile when it comes to public, right? Let's just say that when you do drag, you're not maybe thinking of doing it for the cis straight guy. If you're a cis straight man and you consume drag, that's great. Just know that maybe you're not the focus of who's doing it. Which is great. I mean, you have plenty of things to choose from who are already made for you. So other reasons to use drag is that SciComm is not necessarily, well, science and SciComm are not necessarily the most welcoming field for any kind of different people, but I'm going to focus on queer people because that's like my area of expertise. And as Killer Queen would say, el drag es política, cariño, drag is politic. I get, from drag to SciComm, there you go. We can visibilize minoritized collectives not just queer people, because, well, shocker, but we can visualize other collectives because queer people are intersected with other collectives as well. There are queer women, there are queer people of color, there are queer disabled people. We're everywhere. Empowering dissidents from outside the norm. From a celebratory point of view, I was super headstrong the other day at a show, this is a celebration, because we're so used to queer communities being exploited for their pain without not really doing something that celebrates us. And drag, in its essence, is a celebration. It's a celebration of who we are. Obviously, a less cis-heteronormative point of view, for obvious reasons. And also, I want to make a point of reappropriating a less serious SciComm, because I do think, maybe we can discuss this later, that serious is often a word that is very related to respectability. And respectability is very often correlated to normativity. And I don't really understand why SciComm should be serious. Like, to be honest, tend to be controversial but brave. I don't really understand why science should be serious. Like, as long as it's done with rigor and you're following a method, I don't really understand the need for being like uptight and serious, and I think we all can put that into SciComm as well. This is just a picture of Kilo Green, I just like her. But SciComm also gives a lot to my drag. First of all, it's kind of a joy between worlds, so like what I was saying, the Hannah Montana physics. A different point of view within drag, because, shocker, since there's not a lot of LGBTQIA plus people in science, there are not a lot of scientist drag queens. We're a few, but, and finally, a community. We're a few, and this is my favorite slide of the whole presentation, because you might think, oh, she does this, it's not just me, like, I'm not a genius, I'm not special, a lot of us kind of have the same idea, because a lot of queer people do drag, queer scientists exist, so it was just a matter of time that evolved into a mixed point. So we have analytical and Dinococcus routes from USA. We have actually we have also ID Problem. I forgot to put it there. House of Science, Museo de Point de Misteria Plástica in Mexico, Ingapful in Guatemala, Langsismo in Costa Rica, me, my drag daughter, my mitochondria, Ana Luli and Alexa in Spain, Diva Attenborough in Australia. Polynesian is kind of like in between the USA and UK, and Shukal Adar in the UK. So what I mean is, there is a community, and you probably can find people sort of close to you that do this. And from what I've done and why I've done it, I want to talk a little bit to you about the more personal ways to do SciComm. In general, just for the public here. There are 1,000 ways to do SciComm. We have, not all of us, but a lot of people have a very stiff idea of what SciComm is. You go, you give a talk. You go, you give a monologue. You go, you make a video. Literally, I would say most of the performative things you do, arts, writing, can be turned into SciComm. I've just put Spanish examples because I don't really have many Irish ones. But if you want to send someone away, I'll be happy to put them in the next one. But yeah, even memes. You know how, like, memes are a great way to communicate science. If you want to, like, one concept to come across, it is genius to do it for memes. Makeup, I mean, obviously I'm biased here, but here we have two things that I love. On the left, there's a makeup inspired by, like, you know, our galaxy, stars, different parts of space. And on the right, and yes, I know I'm biased here, but I do carbon science for a living, so obviously someone who's doing a makeup on all the possible forms of carbon is gonna catch my attention. Like, you have diamonds on the left, graphene on the right, and carbon black for the lips. To me, that's genius, because if you put this kind of image, a lot of people are going to be interested in what it means, even if they don't know. So it broadens the public for something like this. Do you like any of these? What would you add to these? I do abuse a lot of Spanish memes, I'm sorry, I like them better. So, let's imagine that you knew what you wanted to do. You have an outlet. You know what you want to do in terms of SciComm. Where do you want to do it? Well, it depends on what are you doing. If you're doing something visual, you might want to go to YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or Twitch. If you want something like text and visual, you might do Twitter, if it doesn't collapse, or blogs. Or you could do Facebook. It depends a lot on the public you're going for. Like if you're going to do something for teenagers, please don't go to Facebook unless you're in a country where teenagers use Facebook. But like if you're doing it, for example, in Ireland or in Spain, it's not really gonna work. If you want to access people 60 plus, don't do it a live stream on Twitch. They're not gonna know what's going on. Well, I mean, obviously there are some people, but like if you want to reach a majority of the population, it's not gonna work. Now you know what to do, where to do it, how to do it. Okay, here, let's be clear. I'm talking from the point of view of a researcher that does SciComm as a side gig. If you want to know, like if you want formal education on how to do SciComm, go to people who do like SciComm for a living. But for me, the most important part was planning, also because I'm a really messy person. I planned it in two parts. The first one is the general structure of the project. What do I want to achieve with this in the long term? What's the route, the map? And then SciComm views, which is how I named like every single action that you do in the purpose of getting to that end goal. It can be, well, an Instagram post, a Twitter thread, a Twitch live stream, a makeup, you name it. How does it relate to the project? And also, how do I took my own horn? Because we don't really talk about, if you're doing SciComm on social media, it's not that easy for people to notice it. The effort to benefit ratio is not great, let me tell you. Warning, in case someone here actually wants to get into doing a little bit of SciComm and see how it goes, fair warning, you're only racing against yourselves. The work is not going to end because it takes you longer to do something. You have already enough on your plate. I'm guessing most of you are in academia. That's enough stuff to deal with. Like, this is, we all have our own life, our own mental health, and we do what we can with what we have. If it's something that's adding to the pressure cooker, that is a thesis or a postdoc, you can always stop a little bit and then continue later. And also, nothing's set in stone. Like, the way one does SciComm can change at any point. I used to do something that was way more based on social media, and I transitioned into something that goes a lot more into live events. I will talk about it in a minute, because I'm doing like a dissection point by point of everything I've done. Again, narcissism. Now that you more or less have an idea of what you want to do, I want to talk to you about pros and cons of doing, well, you saw the title of this talk, you knew what was coming. It usually has a more specific audience, which for me is a great thing, because I'm going to be, again, controversial but brave, and say that a lot of the SciComm we consume, which is made by cis straight white men, is falsely made to believe that it's for everyone. Like, I'm sure you've heard this, like, SciComm is for everyone. No, not really. Like, if you only see a certain kind of person doing it, it's not for everyone, because it does give you the idea that maybe you don't fit in there. So, having a more specific audience, for me, is a pro. Maybe for other people, is a con. The medium can be political itself. I think I don't need to go further into it. You do get to the audience in a more personal way. I do believe that SciComm promotion can be something not just good, but even for some goals better than a more rational based SciComm of, oh, you want to know this. I don't think there's anything wrong with SciComm made from and for the heart, as long as it's done with your head, in the sense that, well, there's a certain rigor, you're talking about things you know, and if you don't know things, you talk to people who know. Or you do your research, that also works. And it's seen as a less hierarchical interaction. I do think academia suffers from a problem of hierarchy, and SciComm has kind of inherited this, in the sense that there's one people talking to many. I know things, you don't know them. I'm gonna make you know what I know. I do find it a little condescending, I'm sorry. So getting something more personal, I think, helps to even out how you feel, in a way. Cons. Okay, what I was saying, it's not for everybody, but arguably, no SciComm is for everybody, so is it a con? I don't know. It can be cringe. Especially when you have someone trying to do something diverse, not coming from a diverse background, or someone trying to do something, for example, for youth that doesn't come from a young background. It can be cringe. I've been in both ends of this. I've suffered the cringe and I've been cringe myself. It's okay. There's things to avoid this. Have a diverse group. Have people you can talk to that can actually peer review your SciComm, taking into account maybe biases that you have that they don't. If it's less serious, people can think your SciComm is less rigorous, but I would argue that is not your problem, but theirs. Just putting it out there. And this is something I'm kind of obliged to say. If you're doing something that's political in the sense that it goes against something systemic, example, LGBT phobia, you're gonna get hate. And it's not a you might, it's a you will. These are just the comments in Spanish. I have more or less the same amount in English. I don't know, things like, this is mental illness on display, which is like, technically true, but I don't think you mean what I think you mean. Or, I don't know, I'd be ashamed to be your parent. It's like, well, I'd be ashamed to be your daughter. But yes, and a lot of them go to the point of, oh, if she's dressing like that, she cannot be a scientist. Just like, maybe you're part of the problem. But yeah, I just wanted to be honest and be like, hey, this is a thing that happens when you do SciComm in a bit of a different way. And I'm just gonna go, this I'm gonna brush through because this is what worked for me, but maybe it doesn't work for you. This is what I did for my project. When I planned, I was like, what do I want to do? This, and this. So I created 3 sections and then I left a 4th one blank for the future, which is the one I use the most. The first one was, why do I have not doing this? Because I wanted to explain the reasons why I was doing this channel, so talking about discrimination, especially in academia. This is me with hair again, shocker. Then I wanted nowadays reference for people, because it's cool to talk about historical reference. I do it often, a lot, but I think sometimes people need to relate to people today, not 50 years ago. So for example, here is my friend Leticia talking about when she got pregnant in her lab, and all of a sudden people assumed she was gonna leave her lab and not do a thesis anymore. Which is obviously something I cannot talk about, because, well, I cannot get pregnant. Shocking, I know. And, well, this is the point I want to make. If you're talking about something that doesn't intersect you, the best option would be to find someone who does, and let them the mic and not even leave in a script. That's my take on it. You don't want to influence what someone is going to say about their own experience. You just want to lend your, in my case, very small platform to someone who will actually be able to talk about this. And finally, Queens Were Robbed, because yes, I do love historical reference, and also I love gossip. And honestly, sometimes talking about the lives of people is just gossip but projected into the past, which makes for great stories. And I mean, obviously the looks are an important part of trend. It doesn't mean it has to be important for every project you do in SciComm, but I do think that if you're doing something related to performance, the way you look is going to matter. It doesn't mean that you have to look a certain way, it's just that it's gonna matter. Like, if it sends a message, the better. And yes, I am showing off there my graphene wings because it took a long time to do. What came after is that after doing all of that, I was like, oh, maybe this is not for me. Maybe postdoc is enough, and I don't have the time to record videos every now and then and edit them and subtitle them, and it's a lot of work. Which I'm not saying this isn't, but this is more gratifying for me. I transitioned to a project that's more live show based, and also I could create more of a live community, which is, for me, I love this. Actually, one of the reasons why I came to Dublin is because I was fortunate enough to participate in a show here, which some of you might have come to. I'm not going to name names. But I wanted to give you an idea of, when I was doing videos, what's the amount of work that comes into it? What's the amount of planning? So, I did a video on Rosalind Franklin because we love a stable, right? So beforehand, you need to do your bibliography. Fun fact, I actually got one of the quotes for my thesis off this because Rosalind Franklin was studying graphene oxide before she was doing DNA. Then you have to write your script, have your outfit, what I'm gonna have in the background, what's the logo for the channel. Then you have to actually record, edit, put music, subtitle, make it accessible, preferably, please. And then you need to see how you're gonna sell this to people, basically. And now that I have done, I think, a more or less comprehensive, very chaotic explanation of what I've done. Maybe you thought this was a symposium, it's not, it's actually a workshop. Sorry. So, how do you say we divide into two groups? So, okay, I don't have a spatial orientation. Okay, so, group 1, you can get over here. Group 2, you can get over here. Don't feel pressured. Whatever you want to do. So, group 1 would be those of you who would be interested in seeing how drag can be applied to SciComm. How would you create your own drag persona? It doesn't matter if you're not going to do it afterwards, it's just if you want to have this kind of thought exercise, wonderful. Group 2, people who want to transfer a passion they already have in something else into SciComm. So I'm going to leave you a couple minutes to organize yourselves. So group 1 will be over there, group 2 will be over there.